Do you hear those sirens? I do hear those sirens, son. I'm so sorry. Well, what's happening? Well, here's what's happening, son. We left the house about 27 seconds ago, and I'm getting pulled over. I'm really sorry. Police officer walks to the side of the car, asks for my license and registration. While I'm handing it to him, my son says, Dad, are we going to make it to Taekwondo? I said, no, son, we're not going to make it to Taekwondo. You're not testing for the orange belt tonight. I was speeding. And the police officer says, so you know why I pulled you over? I said, of course. I was speeding. In fact, it's even worse that I was pulled over for speeding because I'm that guy in the community. I run in these streets 5 days a week. And I'm the guy that will yell at someone going 40 and at 25 and tell them there are kids, there are families, there are dogs. We have a dog. So I'm a total hypocrite. I deserve the ticket. I was speeding. If anything, I'm going to set an example for my son that you can't say one thing and then do another. And he's like, well, this is kind of refreshing. I don't hear this every day. I'm like, I deserve the ticket. I was speeding, and worse, my little boy's going to miss Taekwondo. He's been working for this next test, this next belt for weeks. So he says, sit tight. I'll be back in a few minutes. So the entire time, my son's like, are we going to Taekwondo? Son, we're going to be late. We're not testing. Why? We got a ticket. Are you not with me? Do you not hear the sirens? But I really want to go. I know you want to go. I'm sorry. I was speeding. The police officer walks to the side of the car and says, I noticed you do not have a front license plate. And that's when I knew my complete honesty, and I was being totally authentic. I deserved the ticket by being honest with him. He gave me a break, and he wrote me up for a fix-it ticket. Superior Court of California, Orange County violation information notice. I got to get a fix-it ticket on a front license plate. Now, I shared that story with my friends, and they're like, that's really cool. One friend's like, that's white privilege at its best. Another said, ridiculous, good for you, and everything else you could possibly imagine. Why this video? And by the way, welcome to the White Collar Advice channel. My name is Justin Perperny. I'm so thankful that you are here. If you find value, like, subscribe, and comment. I am sure I'm going to say some things in this video that some will like, some will not like, because we're going to get someone into politics. I don't follow politics. I'm too busy. I have a family. I have a business. And when I have 9 seconds to myself, I like to sit in the corner with a philosophy book and read. To that end, you may find value in some of our newsletters where we're talking about philosophy and ethics. This Sunday, we're going to do a newsletter on a book that Nietzsche wrote. We'll put half of you to sleep, put me to sleep. I had to read it 17 times before I understood it. Let's get back to the purpose of this video in George Santos, who's going to prison for 87 months for wire fraud and identity theft, owes more than $300,000 in restitution, more than $200,000 in forfeiture. My goal in this community is not to belittle or make fun of people traversing the criminal justice system. Indeed, it is difficult, though I am a teacher, and I want to share insights for those going through this system so they can do better and use opportunities they have to do better and not waste them, as George Santos is absolutely wasting and squandering them, and it's an absolute shame. I won't get into all of the details of his case because it's pretty public, but suffice to say he's going to prison for 87 months for embezzling campaign funds, charging credit cards without authorization, obtaining unemployment benefits through fraud, lying in reports to the U.S. House of Representatives, stealing COVID unemployment benefits. It is all bad, and he pled guilty. The problem with him pleading guilty is he doesn't think he did anything wrong. If anything, he thinks he is the victim. So I'm going to share 5 specific things in this video that George Santos must absolutely avoid doing in federal prison because he can do better. When I went to prison, lost, confused, dazed, I thought I was the victim. I thought everyone was out to get me. And if I can get it together from the wrong side of prison boundaries, thankfully with a mentor, Michael Santos, he served 26 years in prison. If I can get it together, guess what? Santos can, Elizabeth Holmes can, Sean Combs can, anybody can, but not through happy talk or being the victim, but by working. Now, in preparation for this video and some media I'll do on it next week, I took the time to sit through the hardest interview I have ever watched in my entire life, which was the George Santos, Tucker Carlson interview. I actually thought it was a joke or a parody, and I was waiting for the punchline to jump out or something to happen, but it turned out to be really true. Then about 40 minutes in, I said, at some point, George Santos is going to say, Tucker, let me be really clear. Regardless of what everybody else may do or may not do, I accept full responsibility for bilking the government, for lying to people who trusted me and who voted for me because I made all of them look like fools. I hurt people. I am ashamed. I am sorry. I know, Tucker, some people view me as an inveterate liar. I know I said I worked at Goldman in Citi and I didn't. I know I said I was a volleyball player in college. I wasn't. I know I said that 4 people who worked for me were killed in a nightclub shooting. All of those things were wrong. Also, Tucker, it was wrong to say that everyone embellishes their resume. It was wrong to insinuate that it was my staffers that did it. It was me. I didn't see any of that in the interview other than Tucker Carlson acting like a sycophant and agreeing with George Santos that he shouldn't be going to prison. I would argue the 87 months is too long. We spend too much money warehousing people in these minimum security camps. There is no doubt. Many things can be true. It can be true that he didn't accept responsibility, and it can be true that he shouldn't be going to prison for 87 months. If you're going to prison, I want you to do better. Just do the opposite of what he does, and you're going to get a better outcome. So let's transition into the number 5 thing that George Santos cannot do while he's standing for count for 87 months in federal prison. He's got to stop talking. During this Tucker Carlson interview, it was fascinating. He's like, Tucker, I've been off the grid for 6 weeks, and there's media out there and stuff, and yeah, they want to talk to me, but when I got the call from your booker, it's like, you're Tucker, you're Tucker Carlson, I'm going to do the interview with you, yeah, let's talk. You're going to prison. It's embarrassing. It's disgraceful. I know the feeling. When you have media opportunities that most people in prison would love to have to share their story, use it for good. Here's how I want to reform the system, Tucker. Here's how I want to work alongside President Trump as a convicted criminal to close more camps, to demonstrate that people should be released from prison if they earn freedom. Tucker, did you know the Bureau of Prisons director recently issued a directive that more people should go directly to home confinement if they're eligible instead of the halfway house? I want to help people understand how they can participate and develop skills. I want to be part of the solution because people view me as a career con man, thief, liar, and criminal. I want to do better. I want to be held accountable. Nowhere in the interview. Instead, he is the victim. So he needs to stop talking or if he is going to speak in prison, it should be the right message. He should listen before speaking. Talking too much leads to trouble. You try to assert your authority inside of this prison. And because he is a quasi-celebrity, there are, of course, going to be sycophants like Tucker Carlson. Oh, you got wronged. This guy didn't go to prison. They did the same thing. And of course, there are going to be people in prison who suck up to him. No question. There are going to be those that loathe him. Why? I can tell you why. Because he complains about his 87-month sentence. He complains about the injustice or injustice, whatever the hell the word is, that is being done to him. And that could be off-putting to people who do not have resources, lawyers to obtain, media to express their problems. They're going to get angry. And also, if you talk too much and you form the wrong friendships, in prison you are very much guilty by association. And a staff member could insinuate, okay, he's associating with that person or that person. That person uses an iPhone. He doesn't program. He's in the television room all day. He has got to stop talking. Number 4, it's very easy in prison to make mistakes and give into some unwritten rules, because if you've never been to prison before, you really don't know what to do. He's already making mistakes. For example, in this interview with Tucker, he's like, I'm going to a medium security prison, and I have no doubt that they're rapists and sex offenders, and that's true. In medium security prisons and murders, that's true. I would bet money that he's not going to a medium security prison. He will surrender to a higher security prison, as I did when I went to prison. I surrendered to the higher security prison. Then I was transferred over to the minimum security camp. If he ends up in a medium security prison, you should hold me accountable. You should say, you're a fool, you're wrong, you have no idea what you're talking about. And I'll say, I was wrong, I made a mistake. He is absolutely going to be designated to the minimum security camp. And even inside of this camp, there are unwritten rules that new prisoners make. Changing the television in the TV room. Maybe I want to pop on a channel that isn't popular inside of the prison. Cutting in line to go to the chow hall. Not hopping off the phone when other prisoners are waiting to use it. Sitting on the email machine all day at 5 cents a minute, writing his book and complaining about the fact that he's a victim, taking someone's seat. When you walk into the chow hall or dining room, as prisoners like to call it, there are, even in the minimum security camp, there are going to be races that sit with one another. If he sits with the wrong race, he could be called out. So it's really in his interest to understand the unwritten rules, because I can assure you they are not posted. And I know I made a lot of mistakes when I went to prison because, like Santos, I was not prepared. And I want all of you, if you're going through this wretched criminal justice system, to be prepared. Number 3, I could see George Santos as someone who would befriend staff or hang around with them. Do you know why? See, I went to prison because I broke the law and I was guilty and I deserve to be held accountable. And I don't need that for like false praise. Oh, you accept responsibility. That's why I did it. Prison was easier for me to endure because I did it. So standing for count, separation from my family, using those toilets and showers, doing pots and pans, the scrubbing, missing family occasions at home, like my niece being born, I earned all of it, easier to endure. But if you don't think you are a criminal, or if you don't think you've done anything wrong, it would make more sense that you would spend time with who? Law-abiding citizens, of which most staff are law-abiding citizens. The problem with that is prisoners that speak to staff get a bad rap, a terrible reputation, because there are people in prison who cooperate, who inform with hopes that they will get a reduced sentence, help someone else catch a case, to use some prison parlance. And when I was in prison, there was a situation where a new prisoner went and complained to staff. And as I express in Lessons from Prison, a book you can get for free at White Collar Advice, don't buy it. As I write in chapter 21, he went to staff, complained. The dude went back to his cubicle 34B in Unit B, and there was feces and urine in his sheets and pillow. And when he cleaned it and he went back there the next day, it was there again. Then they transferred him to a low in Texas, maybe Latuna, and word spreads inside of these camps. And guess what happened 3 days into his stay in Latuna? There's urine and feces inside of his sheets. So if you don't think that you're a criminal, Mr. Santos, it may be very easy for you to spend more time with staff. Avoid them at all cost. Number two, and this is going to be difficult for him, and it's something that he needs to overcome. There are some people who go to prison where you can indeed argue the conduct was out of character. In my office, you'll see all that work we did, the Varsity Blues case. Those parents paid to get their kids into school. We worked with more than 10 families. They went to prison. They pled guilty. They are a convicted felon, just like me, like George Santos, like anybody else. The difference is those people have otherwise led law-abiding, contributing lives. It was an out-of-character moment where they paid to get their kid into school. They were held accountable. It was out of character, an isolated moment. They do not have a history of stealing, a history of lying. The problem with Mr. Santos is because he sees himself as a victim and associates with people who plays into that victim mentality, no one holds him accountable. So I am telling you, Mr. Santos, if the goal is to get out of there as quickly as possible, become eligible for home confinement, participate in programs that could shorten your sentence, you have got to stop lying. And you can only stop lying when you accept responsibility for what you did. I was speeding, Your Honor. I should be held accountable. I give other people a hard time who speed. I should not be treated any differently. I deserve this ticket. The only way out of this, Mr. Santos, is to own and acknowledge and say things that are very difficult for you. I lied. I cheated. I disregarded campaign finance laws. I abused the trust of my constituents and contributors. I'm the first Republican ever expelled from Congress. This is disgraceful. I am ashamed. I am disgusted. I knew better. I've embarrassed my family. I embarrassed people who voted for me. I got to do better. And I can do better if I start to tell the truth. It's all my fault, even if the sycophants are going to give you an excuse or cop out, to use some prison parlance. You've got to stop lying, because there are people in prison who may loan you items from the commissary. Well, you need to pay it back. A lot of people in prison gamble. Damn it, I know. I get calls from wives who are like, is it normal? My husband's asking me to Venmo $300 and $400 to 7 people, usually right after the Super Bowl. No, it's not normal. Your husband gambled. He owes the debt. What should I do? Pay it. One broken promise on the inside could really ruin his credibility, and that travels fast on the inside with staff, with prisoners. So here's something that you need to do, Mr. Santos, if you were watching this. You have got to embrace this concept that Michael Santos taught me in federal prison, and I wrote about it in the end of Lessons from Prison. Here it is. It's very simple. If you say you are going to do something, you need to do it. Do not lie to people in prison who might want to help you, because of your quasi-celebrity status, who have been there for a long period of time, who may want to give you a second chance. Most people in prison, they're honorable, as much as many of you may think that's crazy. They follow through on their commitments. They are hardworking. They are preparing to come home. They are building a record that demonstrates why they're different from the government's version of events and why they are worthy of a second chance. Because I can assure you, serving time in a minimum security camp, and you ain't going to no medium, could be the easiest part of the sanction. It's the rest of your life as a convicted criminal, and most dudes there are working to overcome that conviction. You can help them. You have some skills as an entrepreneur, as a communicator, as a salesman. And I would argue you've squandered much of that talent. You can get it back. Do not lie. Number one, I'm fascinated by some of the tweets, and we know where he is going. Do not talk about a pardon. I see the tweets. I know this is my president. This is my guy. You're filming videos that say whether I get the pardon or not, this is my president. You familiar with Doge? You familiar with what this government is sending people to prison for? You stole COVID unemployment benefits. So I would argue this administration would argue that you bilked the government. To then say you want a pardon is akin to me saying I've earned the right to play shortstop for the Dodgers tomorrow night. By the way, I'm taking my daughter to the game. Don't talk about a pardon. It is disgusting. It is insulting. You have not earned a pardon. This whole pardon process in this country has just totally gotten out of hand. It's not the record you built or how you show that you're part of the solution. It's I'm going to tweet nice about somebody. I'm connected to somebody and I'm going to pay Bondi's brother $2 million to get a connection for. I don't care about the politics. It happens with both sides. Biden pardoned these judges in Pennsylvania who went to prison because they didn't disclose they owned a jail that sent juveniles there. They had an incentive to send the kids there. They get a commutation. They're no longer in prison. Both sides to it terribly. The pardon system in this country is a joke. My point is, number one, do not say that you are pursuing a pardon or that you think you have earned a pardon. There's a reason the pardon application says wait for 5 years until you've completed your sentence. You can fill out a waiver, I suppose. And in some of these administrations, it doesn't seem to matter, but generally it does. Do you know why they want 5 years? So you can build a record over a sustained period of time that says, I have accepted responsibility. This is what I have done post-sentencing. The U.S. Attorney's Office or Pardon Office should consider. This is the record I've built and how I'm part of the solution. There are people in prison I know who claim to have connections to this White House, and all they do is talk about a pardon they want, and it can be incredibly off-putting to prisoners who have actually done the work, who have actually built a record, who have actually used a platform like Prison Professor Talent, which is a website that Prison Professor's nonprofit maintains so people in prison can document their journey, a digital library to share with stakeholders. It is free, and I'm proud to say White Collar Advice, I help fund that work. There are so many people in prison who are worthy of a commutation or pardon who will never get it. They don't know anyone, no connections, no nothing. They will serve the entirety of their sentence. So that is the last piece of advice to George Santos. You must avoid talking about a pardon as you did with Tucker Carlson. He can do better. We can all do better. And I've been home from federal prison for 16 years. And if this sounds like moralizing and whatnot, it is. People counted me out. People leave messages at times like, why are you giving advice to an Elizabeth Holmes or George Santos? They haven't earned it. They're not worthy of it. People would have said the same thing about me after I was sentenced to 18 months in a minimum security camp. I was a terrible defendant. I lied to the government, to my family. I didn't care about victims. I engaged in happy talk, cliches, and platitudes. It was all about me. And then I got to prison and I found a mentor and I said, I've hurt people. I've created victims. I've embarrassed my family, sent my mom to therapy. And you know when things got better? When my life changed and finally began to improve? When I said exactly what George Santos should say in his next media interview. It's all my fault. Hold me accountable. Here is what I will do moving forward. Here's where I'm going to document it. I know I will never get everybody back in my corner, but I'm going to work to prove worthy of the love and support of those standing alongside me. I'm going to earn it. Thank you for coming to the White Collar Advice channel. Bye-bye.